Here's a little video about my homemade stick welder. I had a need for a little more power than my MIG welder, of course. Stick is hotter. And I didn't have a whole lot of money to go out and buy one. It's kind of nice to have a portable one instead of running off 220, which isn't available everywhere. So a little bit of looking on the internet and a little bit of talking around here and there and some creative thinking, I came up with this little beast, which is basically what it looks like. It's a Honda GX 390 engine, just a plain old 390, nothing special about it. Hooked to a 100 amp Chrysler alternator down here. It's just, they call them square alternators, so I'm told. It's kind of a squarish shaped in a way. See if I can get a shot of the back of it there. The leads come right off of it. There's no regulator. The rectifier is still in there, all the diodes are there. The positive lead comes off and goes to the stinger, or the wand, or whatever you want to call it. And ground is just a ground. I charge the field with this lawnmower battery. To keep the lawnmower battery charged up so I can run it for a little while, so it doesn't really matter the state of the battery as long as it holds something. I happen to have this alternator laying around anyway, so I hooked it in, I powered it in through the engine, and then all it does is keep the battery charged, which powers the field in the main welding alternator. I ran a pair of twin AA belts from the engine to the welding alternator. If I remember now, I built this a few years ago. It seems to me it's spinning about 5,000 RPM when the motor's run at the regular 3600. And this thing, I don't know what it's spinning at, doesn't really matter. It's spinning. I only need to put out about 6-7 amps to run the rotor. I disconnected the main shutoff switch here. I don't really need it anymore. The main switch is now this one. It's just an old military switch I had off another generator. I can't accidentally kick it off or on. It basically shuts the motor off when it's off and disconnects the field and the battery, so it disconnects it all together. So does this one. This disconnects just the field, so when I'm not arcing, I can power the field down, cool the alternator, because it does get hot. Originally I could get, when the alternator was cold, I could get 3 rods through it and it would start getting hot enough not to hold your hand on. I didn't want to really overheat the thing and cook it. But when it was warmer, about 2 rods, and you'd have to let it cool off for a few minutes. So I decided to improve on that a little bit, and I power the field through this relay here, which is controlled through the switch on my stinger, so that I can turn the field on and off. So when I'm done arcing, or burning, or whatever you want to call it, I can shut the field off, cool off the alternator. And it made a world of difference, actually, because even just those, few seconds to switch a rod, or anytime I just stopped arcing, burning, it cools the alternator way down, so I can actually burn quite a bit more now. I just leave the motor running up at high speed, and keep the fan spinning the alternator, cooling it off. It works pretty good. I think I'm putting out near 100 amps on that, so it's 100 amps DC. Although it does squeal a little bit, because it's through three diodes, so it's not pure DC like a battery, but it's close as I'm going to get, I guess. And it works fine. There's really not much way to regulate the speed. I can slow the motor down to drop my amperage, but it also reduces the cooling in the alternator. So that's my concern. I don't want to overheat the thing. So for most of what I ever need it for, 100 amps is fine. It doesn't seem to be too hot. And I guess that's about it. I can fire it up and give you some idea what it does. And it works pretty good. It's not as efficient as a proper built welder. I see a lot of them only have 9 horsepower, and this is 13. And under load, it definitely drops down like it's working. So, but the big thing for me was cost. Using what I had here mostly. I had the frame from one of those military generators, those 1.5 kilowatt generators, so I had that anyway. Old lawnmower battery, they're not hard to find. Had this alternator off a scrap car, the upper one. The lower one was given to me anyway. Actually, I was given 4 of them, and I made 1 out of the 4. I had a motor. I got the head gasket was out of it, and I fixed it for $20. I got the motor dirt cheap. About all I really had to buy was the double pulley for here and the belts. I had some wires and relays. The wire I'm using is only jumper cable, so it's heavy enough for what I'm putting through it. Now I had to buy the stinger and the clamp too. And it's just a bit of metal and steel to make the framework underneath that the generator's sitting on, the motor's sitting on. And some time. It's just a piece of wood with wheels on it, so really there's no great expense here, but it's a lot cheaper than a few $1,000s to buy something that's appropriate. So I'll fire it up here in a minute, and well, it just sounds like an engine running, but I'll give you a little example of what it does. This is what it did. It's just a couple pieces of scrap junk metal, 6011 rod, 1/8 inch. I'm a self-taught welder, as you can probably tell. It's not that great, but it does what I need. Yeah, it's raining out. It's a lot better, a lot heavier than my MIG welder, which is great for jobs that I need the heat. And the overall cost of it was pretty low for me to build, so I don't think I have $100 into that whole thing altogether. So for me, $100 for a cheap stick welder that's portable, it's good for me. Anyway, that's my homemade MIG welder.